Well, welcome to the September AI workshop. Before we get started here, I'll show some of the stuff that we've been playing with and getting ready for. But let me share my screen here. So for those that don't know, we got this AI workshop that we're getting ready for, and you guys are welcome to attend it. I got all kinds of tracks. We rented out this big old mansion up in northern Wisconsin on a lake, and uh, of course, all this stuff was made with AI. The whole website, the event registration portion, and you can choose a track you want to go through, and um, click through, and yeah, this whole site. In fact, this whole website, the AI for Business, has 150 plus sites on it and pages, and it was all made by AI. And so, but anyway.
Rodney,
So some
do
of
you
the
have
things
the
that we get started on this, where Aaron started out yesterday with, he got himself an updated professional image. I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. What were you using that on? So he made that one there with, what was it, Gemini?
Yeah, it was on Gemini. Just I had a selfie I had taken, and I just I went into Gemini. I said make a professional headshot, and just dropped that in there. And yeah, it gave the output of that picture. It was pretty impressive what it was able to do.
It was pretty impressive. And I'll have Aaron hop in a little bit later to show that. That's the video I clicked in there, but oops, let's stop that.
Aaron, did it give you just the one, or did it give you like a 4 or 5 of them to choose from?
I did just give me one. Yep, I can actually quick show it now if you want to just want to hop into that quick.
Yeah, if you want to take over.
All right.
And I also went to a conference this week down in Chicago that was a marketing conference that had some AI stuff on it, and it was pretty cool. Just some of the, I mean, again, we're mainly an IT company, we're not a marketing company, but it's cool to see how some of these marketing companies are using this.
So yeah, here I just literally I clicked the initial make a professional headshot. I dropped that picture in, and I gave that picture.
Wow,
Nice.
Now I did the same for my wife, and it gave a little more grief. So I took initially like her headshot she had done with Royal Credit Union, and it brought that one out. So then I asked to remove the circle, and then it did this. So it did a little refining. I don't know if it's as good as the original. So I was like, all right, let's see how far this thing can go. So I put my wedding picture in there, and it said, can you make one from there? And then it's like, no, we need to see more of her face. So I took this one, and then it made that one. So
well, it's cool that it told you what it needed, right? It's like, I'm not going to give good quality out of the image you gave me.
Yep. So it's really come quite a long ways.
And when you look at some of these images, it's hard to tell which one was the fake one or which one was the original one. When you look at those two images, like both of those could have been real images, or they both could have been fake images.
well, it does the whole I guess I call it portrait mode on iPhone or whatever, but it does the whole kind of blur the background, bring you to the front.
Yeah.
So I was in a restaurant up here in Eau Claire, and I was doing a workshop last night, just kind of wasting time. I'm like, hey, I wonder what a TV would look like on that yellow wall there. And it.
But hey, Aaron, click into the images as you're going through here, so that way we can see that nice on the recording.
So, yep. So this was the original image here.
So this is a real image. This one here.
This is the real one. And I asked it to put a TV on the wall to see what it looked like.
Wow.
I did that, and then I'm like, you know what? Switch that out with the Mona Lisa. Just for the sake of how far can I push it. And then of course I took the same one, so I started with this. I said, let's make this a Packer themed area. It's kind of like a sports bar. And then it gave me a bunch of context there, but then it changed the boot.
So I find myself, I think I've trained myself to look for all the things that AI used to screw up on, like legs of the chair and things like that, and that's what I'm immediately looking for in these images, and they look right.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive what it was able to do. So This was another interesting one here. We just did I asked for somebody said I got a bunch of ingredients at home, and so I said, give me an image of hamburger, onion, and green pepper. So it did it, but it put it in like one bag. It was just kind of funny how it took that there, but
well, you got your own mix, your own, so you grab it out and you can make your own patty, right? It's so you feel like you made your own burger.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll let Rod
that's my
take it
mix,
back
man,
there.
after my own heart, right there.
Yeah.
All right, Rod, you can have the floor now.
All right.
Gentlemen, I apologize for jumping in. I appreciate the sharing that, just because I actually play with that with ChatGPT and noticed that the ChatGPT produced a lot worse quality, and I'm very happy to see that Gemini is doing it a lot more accurate and not screwing up facial characteristics or not changing the background images and such. So I appreciate that. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I would say too, I did side by side. So I actually went in ChatGPT, ran it there, and then I went over to Gemini just on my phone, and I was bouncing between them. Gemini's response rate on those images is drastically faster too, and it's far more accurate. So I would say if you're looking for marketing materials and things like that, or imaging, I think Gemini's got a step up on ChatGPT. It's from what I can see.
Yeah, Gemini does have a step up. It's because ChatGPT actually self-limits himself. There's been a lot of concerns about deepfakes. So they go ahead and actually add in almost a cartoonish feel to almost most of their images that they're doing it, and they do it intentionally. So what it causes is that you can't make realistic images add like what he's talking about there. And that's
go ahead. Sorry. Well, one other thing that I wanted to add may kind of make you think of something else too. What prevented me to use the generative image generation is not being able to build up. So it was inconsistent. Anytime that you make any changes, something would shift. So having that stable background or changing things added onto it, it's a huge plus, because then it actually enables me to use such generators for work or for whatever else, because then it's consistent. That consistency for me is a key, which was a really big gap with any, I used whatever the other ones were, very popular in the beginning, but they were not consistent as you go build up from the model.
Yep. Yeah, and right now, from what I've seen, Gemini is definitely leading the pack in that area. I think the other models are capable of it. They're just not allowing us to do it.
The other key takeaway is, just to wrap up too, what I noticed from LLMs, they all are good at some one thing, and the other ones could be better on something else. So that's how I kind of find myself playing with the different language models for different purposes now too.
Yep. So at the marketing conference I was at, one of the things they talked about was basically building brand scripts and all that, which is all great. It doesn't really help you much until you get to the point where you actually want to start using those brand scripts. So this prompt here, I could probably just share it with you guys so you guys can go and read it at your leisure if you like. Copy link. Put it into the chat here so that way. But I basically go through and build a giant brand script to create for our AI workshop. And then I just ask it, all right, create an image once I have that. And this here's the image that got generated as a result of that. And if you take a look at this image in detail, all the words are correct in it. The artwork, register now, everything looks top shelf on this thing, right? In my opinion. And if you ever work with graphic artists, this here would normally be probably $1,000 to a $2,000 ad for someone to throw together. Or if you have a really skilled graphics artist, they might be able to throw this together, but it's going to take them at least 4 hours to do this type of image. Yeah, even just all the colors match, and I had to try a couple different one. Like this one here, I liked it, but I think they had yeah, that's supposed to be walk away with 20 plus, ready to use. So a couple errors here. So every time I'm doing this, I have to check this, but this entire thing only has 2 letters wrong in it. Now, unfortunately, I can't go edit those 2 letters, so this one has to be junk as a whole. I suppose I could maybe edit it, but then the hard part with editing these things is that you have to go find the exact font they're using, font size, the styling. It's just easier to regenerate it. But this one worked out well. And then I'm like, all right, let's throw one with some October, the dates and such. So it threw this ad together. This one here I liked. This one here I think I forget why I didn't like that one. Maybe I should have liked that one. Then I want to add a couple with the location. And I just find myself scanning to make sure that the words are all correct. But here you're looking at, I'm doing 5, 6 different ads, and only 1 or 2 of them had any type of inconsistency. And there's a lot of text on these images. Whereas 6 months ago, I mean, I would tell it not to do text because it could not get the text correct inside these things. All right, yeah, so there, AI policy that's supposed to be. So this ad's no good, but yeah, that one's good. Kickoff, roadmap. And that's after I went, of course, and you guys can look at all the detail of that, create all the brand profiling needed for this particular workshop and such, but then I can just do the on-brand information for it. So any questions on that, or?
I'll just chip in with one method that I use. I would generate something like that is halfway decent, and then I would actually jump into Photoshop because their generative AI, it seems like doing a lot better. You mentioned the fonts, some other elements that I haven't played with wording, but to me, it's actually faster if I do the bulk part or draft in a call it ChatGPT environment and then jump into Photoshop and use their generative AI just to modify things.
Firefly?
So that's so in that scenario, are you able to just take like this image? Where's that one that had that spelling error? Policy. And can it separate this text here from the background and kind of puts into separate layers?
You could try that. I haven't played with the wording itself. I would just modify. To me, the challenge would used to be when I would play with some graphical changes. AI with the ChatGPT part takes forever, and again, it would come up to be inconsistent. So you would ask that to be modified in one area, all of a sudden the other area is not the same anymore. So, and then you wait for a very long time for this to produce. So what I would do, I would get something that I visually like and then tweak it in Photoshop. That seems like a working pattern for me.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, and I would do that too sometimes. Like really, after my AI conference this week, that was the first time I ever thought to actually put real trust in OpenAI here to do any text inside of there. Like I would try go ahead and make it so that way the images had 0 text in it, and then throw the text on top of it after. And so at this conference there, I was looking at these things, and I'm like, they're pumping out giant, displays like this, and I mean probably 50-50 on whether or not all the texts are correct or not. But that's a huge improvement from even 3 to 6 months ago. That 3 to 6 months ago, I mean, I wouldn't even trust it. I wouldn't even trust it like one word. But I thought that was pretty good. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna pull up Gemini as well, and we'll try generating some images here and try editing my rock wall. Hold on, I gotta sign into Gemini. pull this over here. Yeah, so this here's my super detailed drawing, right? That I put it as a source image there. I showed you guys at the beginning. And this is a project I think I'm doing on the 10th here. I have to order the block and such. But we're gonna be getting and you've seen these on like the side of roads and stuff, but they're the big giant concrete blocks for retaining. And so funny story on this little project here is that we got the decking board here, we got the window in, and then we went to the city. And we're like, all right, we want a permit for a deck. Well, they're like, no, we're not going to give you any permit. And the reason is that we are too far. Our house is too far away from the road, which sounds really funny, right? But according to zoning, you have to be 25 to 45 feet from the road, and we're 55 feet from the road. So they want us to move our house 10 feet closer to the road. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. No. So we went and did all kinds of work here. And we were planning on doing this because landscaping does not require a permit. So I can go ahead and raise the dirt here and put retaining wall without a permit, and there's no issue there. So we went and started working. We moved our gas line here. We ran that over. We have a window well thing that will be going over. All kinds of extra work there. Well, I think about 3 months ago, I was in a different workshop, and someone told me, I don't think that's right. And I had AI actually do the research. And the AI gave me the research that the city was wrong. It showed me where in the county zoning it was wrong, and as well as state zoning stuff. So I could have went and fought them on it, but unfortunately now I've already done all the work. I'd have to go ahead and rerun this piping, and so we ran all this. We basically redid all this side of the house here to get prepped for doing this particular project. So we're stuck doing this, even though AI now has helped me know how to make so I don't have to do that. But so here we talked about could we make the top row a little higher and add a black railing around the top row. And the image generation here is actually very, very quick. That's not bad. Actually, not bad at all. Now, sizes are a little bit off here because from here to here, do you guys see my mouse on the screen?
Yep.
Yeah? All right, good. I want to make sure I'm not just talking, but yeah, from the bottom of this window here to the top here is 4 feet. So really and that's where it'll end, and then this railing would go up there. But let's go ahead and just ask the AI for that. The bottom of the top row should go all the way to the bottom of the door, and that is 4 feet.
I wonder if you gave it window dimensions, if it could do scale for the whole thing based on dimensions of one window.
That would be pretty, I don't know what my window dimensions are, but. All right, so here it seems to be really having trouble. That looks identical, doesn't it? Can anyone see any difference? Please regenerate the image.
One thing I did find that's interesting is I've went in and rerun the same exact process I did a couple times on that headshot, and it doesn't. There is not consistency a little bit with it. Like it will do it once sometimes, and then it will have some. It will have some struggles with it. So it's good when it does exactly, but there are still some glitchiness with it. But I also don't know if it's related to the devices using it, because I seem to get, I have a new Google Pixel 10 Pro XL that has some of the built-in more AI components to it, and when I do it through my phone, I seem to have a little more enhanced experience with it to do things. So I don't know if it's device related or if it's just I don't know, but it definitely there's some inconsistencies with it. So we'll see if you get a little more general or more specific on the prompting there, if that makes a difference. But I wonder if starting a brand new chat, if it would adjust.
That's what I am trying right now. I thought this was a new chat.
So, Aaron, wouldn't that be interesting if they gave you a little bit better AI on your Google phone through Gemini?
All right, so we did a little bit longer chat. It might do most of the rework on the first image, and then after that, it will only go ahead and refine or do small little segments of it.
So, Rodney, here's a question for you.
All right, that one's way worse.
Rodney.
Yeah.
So if these AIs have a continual memory thread, would it remember your first attempt at this even in a separate chat?
My understanding is that most of these models do not do that. So they will go ahead and store things to like a global account. Like ChatGPT, for example, has your My Memories. So if we come over here to ChatGPT settings, personalization, so you can do like custom instructions. Somewhere in here, they have knowledge about me personally.
Well, I'm something in ChatGPT, and it just remembered my location in a brand new chat, and it's like I didn't feed that into the new chat, so how would it know that?
Yeah, it adds things into somewhere in here.
Yeah, Rodney, there's two places from my understanding. I actually dove into it myself too. There's two places where in ChatGPT where it saves your information. One is under that knowledge about you in that settings, but there's also it does keep some of the information or historical chats in kind of a RAM, if you will. It is interesting because in some cases I had to actually start a brand new project. In definition in the project, I would say ignore everything that I have said to you before. And start brand new or completely. I forgot the exact prompt or exact language I used, but it would. I actually did a more of a scientific research on that, if you will, with a different type of inputs and see how things would generate. And it does come up with very different results if you ask that to forget to what you have previously told them about and ignore the memories. But I just wanted to highlight that there is not only the memories that, Rodney, you are having on your screen, but there's also that ongoing RAM-like memories about you that your account keep store information.
Yeah, so here's all what it thinks, the type of memory that Ivan is talking about here. These are some of the things that it thinks about me. See, so it thinks I'm a pastor. How nice. And that's because like some of these things actually get in there because like I go talk to pastors about how they can use AI. So I go ahead and then I'll say, hey, I'm a pastor working on a sermon. Please go ahead and and then all of a sudden it'll insert those type of things in me. So you like to steer loan. Yeah, so that's because I was working with a bank. So it has some of that info in me. So yeah, this is the stuff that's inside its own internal knowledge, though. And a lot of it's accurate. I have been married for 23 years. I have 3 kids. I have nieces that ride there. Also build sub-brand. Yep, true. Building barns and event spaces, not exactly a hobby of mine. Horse-related activities, that's more my daughter. But anyway, so these are the type of things that are that it sees I've talked about a lot and has thrown into its persistent memory. And then I could say, if I wanted to clear my persistent memory, I don't, but if I did, how would I do that? And then I can just ask the AI itself, how do I fix this? All right. See, so I don't want to do that. Because obviously, this is good context for me. Like all the stuff I'm working on, I like that it knows that these are the type of things I'm working on. And then I can just say, like, if I do AI for business, it knows I'm working on that brand site. Whereas if I go get IT for CPA, it knows I'm working on that. So it can, yeah, it can go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. You're showing a good case here for at least education with instructors building like a TA for them clone. It's an AI chatbot for the students.
Yep.
So if an instructor were to ask what the AI knows about it, to kind of get a feel for who that particular instructor is, and they wanted to create a class AI chatbot to help students off hours, that could be a baseline where you could export that out and train a GPT and then add on the particular class that they're teaching so that when the students chat to it, it feels like they're chatting to their instructor.
Yeah. Yeah, even stuff like this, I didn't even know that it recognized this about me, right? But yeah, these are data RMM, IT. These are the products we use from a cybersecurity stack, as well as like different Microsoft 365, Azure Graph, Whisper, our different software to bootstrap icons. So like if I'm asking to build me an application, Bootstrap is what we use if we're going to do a real quick application build. So it knows to automatically just go into the Bootstrap stuff. Pipeline, sitemap, blueprint, and this is a particular my website builder. So yeah, it's pretty. It's been a while since I've done this exercise. I bet 6 months to a year. So yeah, this gives you a good assessment of who I am as a whole. So, but yeah, so if you typed, okay, erase all that, if I press enter, it'll just delete it. I'm not going to though.
It's interesting to know what it keeps in memory.
Yeah. So like, yeah, going back to this, you guys can play around with this type of work as much as you'd want. And something I found interesting. So I did a talk last Friday with the Wisconsin CPA Association. And something I found is that right now, the state of, or not just the state of Wisconsin, but in the United States, there are 294 AI data centers being proposed to be built currently. And a lot of us has heard of the multi-million-dollar one going on down there. And I'll pull this up here. Stop sharing. This is one down in Mount Pleasant. They're expanding it. And this is the one that's currently built. This one, they're going on the old Foxconn land and just building just a giant database that is, I believe it's $100 million database or data center that's going on. And here there's 294 projects that will use up 93.6 gigawatts of demand that are currently in the pipeline to be built. And this here is 15 times the electrical usage of the state of Wisconsin. That's a lot of power. Everything from the Oracle Stargate, and it's also a lot of processing power. Right now, each one of these data centers would be the world's largest. So when you look at all these together, and the models we're going to get out of the result of this are just going to be huge, because right now, the larger data center that any of these companies have, the larger the data output. And if you're like in the La Crosse area, you have companies like Trane that makes these data coolers. Well, the data centers and the generators that are used for these both require those chillers or coolers. So right now, Trane, from my understanding, is booked out for like 3 to 5 years, and it's because they have 94, almost 300 data centers just in 2025 that are on the books that are looking at being built, and all of them need those chillers, coolers, structural steel. The construction industry as a whole is going to be very, very busy building all these data centers. Then obviously all the infrastructure and maintenance and support that goes behind these data centers as a whole. So I knew that, and we've all heard the news stories of so and so making a $500 billion investment in a different business, but that $500 billion is just this one, the Stargate expansion. That there's actually far more beyond that from an investment perspective.
So what's going to power all those? Are we bringing up new plants, or are we having a nuclear plant bring online, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. If there's power out there, what their biggest needs right now are water and obviously electricity. So I had a section here on the water and that was different.
Well, I know there's been a lot of news about the Port Washington one.
Yeah. So like the water demand, Wisconsin, which is what makes Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan really good building locations for these, is because from a water
Lake
perspective,
Michigan,
none of the
yeah.
water gets destroyed. It's just used, and it ends up being too hot. So you either get thermal pollution, you have to cool it down ahead of time, or it evaporates. Well, in Wisconsin, we have access to 20% of the world's fresh water supply, and most of it just goes down the rivers. So you can take it out of the ground, it goes back in. There's little issue of Wisconsin running out of water. Now, whereas like if you're in Nebraska or something like that, they pull it right out of their aquifers that are not replenished. So water usage, Wisconsin particularly has a pretty good handle on. It's not something we're missing. Electricity, right now we have the ability to do 5.5 gigawatts used per year. They can go up to 7.5 without really any extra building, but they're building gas turbines and nuclear power plants, micronuclear power plants. But if there's a power plant and they can bring it back online, they're going to. We saw Microsoft purchased 3 Mile Island. They're bringing on the one that had been decommissioned. So, but
They had
this is
a nuclear power plant up in Two that they just recently decommissioned.
what's that?
Nuclear power plant in Two Rivers, or
3 Mile Island is the one that they're bringing back online.
no? I know that, but in Wisconsin here, near Two Rivers,
They might have decommissioned one. I think there's some over by Lake Michigan that they've decommissioned.
Yeah,
They might recommission
north.
those, or they might
that's
build
what
new.
I'm curious about.
But this here, so a standard nuclear power plant produces 1 gigawatt of power per year. So you basically need about 73 new nuclear power plants worth of power. Or based on the studies I did here, it ends up being about a 5% increase to the total grid across the country. But they have basically the checkbooks to go ahead and do that. But I just thought that was an interesting find after I did a deep dive on that, and it was a talk on the ethics of AI, and so went into all these different aspects of it. But I found it interesting. So any questions? Otherwise, I could show some of the AI projects we've been working on as well. But that's the big takeaway and use cases I saw were in the graphic design aspect of it. I thought a couple cool examples of that. All right.
Looks like Ivan just shared some information. Just he had there in some data centers, it looks like, and OpenAI information for those who want to read.
Yeah, and I think the talk there is that there definitely is an AI bubble, right? There's more money being invested into AI than can pay off. It's very similar to those of us that were around in 1999, 1998. We saw the dot-com bust, right? It's because there was an overinvestment in web technologies. But after the bubble burst, websites didn't go away. You ended up with a consolidation of a couple large players, right now there's too many players in there, and all of them realize that whoever wins is going to be the next dominant economic force for the next 20, 30 years. They're going to become the next Microsoft, the next Google. And whoever wins that wins big and becomes one of the most powerful companies in existence. But all the other ones, the Yahoos, the Netscapes, the Ask Jeeves, those are going to go just disappear into almost obscurity. So they're all have unlimited budgets because they all need to win. We all know that we don't end up with 5 or 6 different nice websites to go use, which we have now. Eventually, one person wins this race, which is why all these companies are investing unbelievable amounts of money to be that winner. And you either win or you lose everything that you invested into that. And before they used to try to get a unicorn company that would become worth $1 billion. Now they're looking more at $1 trillion companies, that they want to see a company hit that $1 trillion mark. And if the amount of money they're investing here, they want multiple trillions of dollars, which is a little bit of cash. But you will see in the news over the next year or two, and eventually we'll have it where all the investors just finally pull out. They realize that the horse that they were backing did not end up winning, and they're just going to pull their investment out. And you're going to see a number of these AI investments collapse, and at that time you'll see who the winners are. And right now it's very unclear whether or not that will be Grok. One thing Grok has for it is he has a single investor that which is obviously Elon Musk, that he's the only one that needs to want to win. Whereas like OpenAI, they still need Microsoft and other investment to continue to grow at the level that they're doing. Now, OpenAI got Oracle and SoftBank behind them. Most of us, Larry Ellison became the richest man in the world because Oracle stock went up by 40% based off their AI investments and earnings that they had there. But Anthropic, and you have a number of these companies that are really trying to be that top company and provide the best tools and value. So
maybe you'll spend some of that TikTok money on it.
Yep. So, but I'm just being honest that there definitely will be a bust of the bubble, and there's an overinvestment. And when that happens, you'll see Nvidia stock crash, because when you have 5 or 6 people that are out buying that type of that type of chips, they can go sell them for whatever they want. But when it's only 1 or 2 customers that are buying the huge amount of chips, well, also now Nvidia can't put unlimited money towards it. And we'll see how other countries like China and such if they continue on that. But
I actually was talking to somebody, and he was saying that a lot of companies are refusing to use models that are in the cloud, and that they're using like the open source models and running them locally, because they don't want to give any data to any of these, like, you don't know what OpenAI does with your data. So they're opting to just run local models to keep their data on-prem. I don't know how that plays into things, but
yeah. So if you go, so a lot of these companies, they're CISO, and the CISO is the person that controls all this. Likely hasn't done the due diligence to find out how to set up and configure the OpenAI Trust portal. So here is the OpenAI Trust portal, and you can get it to. Most CISOs would understand what SOC 2 is, SOC 2, Type 2, SOC 3, TextRamp, GDPR, all these different certifications that you can configure your environment in. And one of the easiest ways to get compliant would be just go with Copilot, because Copilot was within your Microsoft tenant, and all these large companies are using Microsoft unless they're a Google one. But and then if it's an actual data concern, they're okay with putting all their documents and financials on a SharePoint site, but they're not okay with giving it to the AI that's on that same SharePoint site. They're going to have access to the same amount of data. So there's ways of setting this up, but like I know some companies that I've talked with that they've had OpenAI come in and talk with them, and it requires almost like a $200,000 or $500,000 a year investment into the structure to get access to it at the enterprise level. And if companies don't want to invest in that, especially when they're at an early pilot stage, that becomes a hurdle to them. I think a lot of and whereas Copilot, you just turn it on and Copilot only has access to whatever your tenant is set up as. And once that's set up that way, it's pretty easy to work with. And then everyone's user permissions are already set up with how their user within Microsoft is set up, which is how they do user permissions anyway. So that's using local models, I don't think is going to be a long-term investment for most of these companies because the model capabilities are just so below what a frontier model capability is. You'll get edge cases where it can perform well, but you may need $100,000 worth of hardware to get it to perform at a reasonable speed, or you need to have there's just a lot of hurdles that come along with trying to make that happen. And even Anthropic has Anthropic security settings. So here they're gonna go HIPAA. You can configure your tenant to work correctly with these different, and they have Claude for Government, and so long and short, you can set it up that way. And I don't think local models are going to be a long-term viable solution because of the cost of the hardware you need, and that hardware depreciates so quickly. Like 2-year-old, $100,000 servers are going to be worth $10,000 in the next year, right? It's not worth it in my opinion. Yeah, and like Sean said, there are definitely local edge cases where you could get that, but and they are getting much better. But when you compare it to like a Google Gemini for image generation or any of the frontier stuff, it's just gonna, from an industrial perspective, not give the results normally.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a question that a lot of, I think, businesses are going to be struggling with, how the efficiency of the tool is versus what they need it to do versus the cost. Because I mean, if you have an industry that's very honed and you're doing these very specific tasks, why would you spend the extra coin if you can do it in-house with a tool that kind of meets your needs? So it just depends on what the scope is that you want to do and trying to identify that, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely I think it takes a lot of time though to, like, we've set up a number of local models, and like their token outputs are normally between 20 and 50 tokens. I don't know if it was a second or a minute, but compared to like a OpenAI is going to have.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, their token outputs are like 50,000 tokens a minute, or per prompt. So. Yeah, so it looks like Kelly was saying she has a free AI for note taking, summarizing.
There's some discussion around read.ai not being allowed in some organizations because it auto propagates into meetings without being allowed, and discussion between using that and Firefly and discussion points on that. I don't know if you have any thoughts or information.
It's hard to say. I mean,
Kelly said specifically Vets Plus does not allow them to attend a meeting with read.ai.
That's interesting. Yeah, like most Teams and web meetings are already recorded, and they're on the back end that it just records by default. Like, and then Microsoft has AI in almost every Microsoft, WebEx, all of those are recording an AI summarizing almost every meeting as is, doing everything that Read AI is as a whole. So that's kind of unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, but it's pretty universal at this point that the recording audio and video are being recorded and then summarized by AI in the backside. And that is data that they would use for training, that the AI providers are using. But Read AI was one of the first ones to come out with it, probably 2 years ago or so. But yeah, at this point, like even this workshop here is obviously going to be is recorded. But if you join any Teams meeting, it normally records on the backside, and then you just go into your admin panel, and you can see the recording for that. And so unless you set that up, but if you join any other company's meeting, how they have their back end set up determines whether or not the meeting is recorded or not. So it's becoming pretty prevalent.
Rodney, I just want to add a quick comment here. I think there's misalignment of thoughts here because Read AI, in a way, how we treat that specific app is not so much about recording. It's about their own behavior, what they have done and been proven. If you read about this, they, without much of a permission or asking you, they do things on their own, and that's what kind of trigger us to ban it in our company. So we completely taken him off the plate. In terms of the meeting recording and what we have in construction industry, when we have meetings with clients, things can be said sometimes, especially with construction workers may not be in a good English, if you will, or not appropriate in some ways. So some of those things may not need to be recorded or may be dangerous. There's some risks involved. So in the bigger companies that I have communicated with, they become with the policies of eliminating the sharing the actual transcript. So not exact language gets shared afterwards, and but the summaries themselves. So that way you have a little bit less exposure to risks and liabilities that can potentially be, dangerous to all. That's kind of my input on that.
Yeah, but in order to create a summary, you have to have a computer system somewhere that had the whole transcript, right? So in the back end, as far as from a training perspective, what the AI actually knows, it knows the whole context of the whole conversation. We're only sharing with individuals the summary, I think, and yeah, I think Read AI does do that. We use Read AI, and I think it emails the full transcript to everyone of the meeting. And if there are concerns that we don't want that in text per se, I could definitely see that. But I think from a data security perspective, that data is in an AI somewhere. It's just what is being shared with humans. All right.
Well, and I want to maybe add on that one too. So we work with Google Suite, and this is kind of our primary engine. And we kind of trust that with everything that we have with Google Docs and email and all of that. So that's why we use Gemini and everything. Since we already believe that, so it's kind of like we can't really walk away from it anymore. So that's also why we're not using Read AI or any other apps, because now it's exposure to any other third parties that could potentially leak some data or maybe cause some security issues as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good take on it. Like if you're a Google company or a Microsoft company, to try to reduce your digital fencing around it, so that way you can, if you've already, look, my data's already in Google, right? We'll just keep that data fence inside of there, and that's why Copilot, like Gemini for Gmail companies, is a great tool for that. Copilot on the Microsoft side has the same logic behind it. Your digital fence, you realize Microsoft already has those recordings. They already have all the data. So my AI I want to have within that within that fence as well. So that way you don't have to go do a deep dive in these other different, basically digital fences. So I think that's a good structure to have, and something all of us when we look at how we're setting up our company's IT and cybersecurity, the least tool, or the easier it is to have all your tools within one basket, the easier it is to defend that basket. And you can spend more effort in defending and setting up that one basket, because all of us do have a finite capacity in what we all can do, right? All right. Well, I think we're done here as far as the main meeting. I'll be happy to show some of my software development stuff and play around in that if you guys, for anyone that wants to stick around for that. But otherwise, that's the main stuff we had for today, and yeah.
I know that I saw the question. Hunter said, out of curiosity, if you ask the AI for a diving board to the hot tub, can it recognize the hot tub and place the board correctly for your for the deck? If you want to try that out,
I do want to try that actually. Patio design. Let's go here. This one.
One thing we should
Can
mention
you
before
create
everybody,
a diving
Rod,
board?
before we drop off and lose a bunch of people, we do have our AI summit we're putting on October 22nd. I don't know if we mentioned that. If we did, I apologize. But
I did at the beginning.
All right, we'll just recap it with that. If you're interested in coming to that, shoot us a message, and you should have most of the people on here should got us some sort of email from us. If you didn't, shoot me a message and I'll send over the details to you about our AI summit, which will be on October 22nd. Registration starts at 8 and it goes until about 6 o'clock with our networking time in there. But we'll be officially done with programming at 4. So we're leaving a couple hours at the end of the day for networking and socializing. And it's going to be in Spooner, Wisconsin at an exclusive resort we have reserved.
All right. I don't think that did great.
It did not
where
place.
do you think the hot tub is? That diving board goes into the dirt. See, I was all impressed with the first couple of things here, but everything I do live like this, it just dies on me. All right. So the key to using this is not doing it live. It does really good when other people aren't watching.
So Gemini suffers from stage fright. Is that what I'm
It does
hearing?
suffer from stage fright. I'm going to remember that.
All right.
But yeah, just so everyone can see, this is, you see here, these are Aaron's Packer themed stuff, but I just pasted this in here. No, not that one. So this was the first one, but yeah, I did this first prompt here. It gave me this, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Look how capable that is. It just inferred everything properly and straightened out the lines, and yeah, I love it. And then from then on, oh, it did this all right too. So it gave me 2. But after that, it just can't. It can't land. I can't win. So
So it is interesting though, if you look at that first good picture that it created, it obviously it doesn't understand tree roots because
Yep.
that's not going to work. But
I wonder if you were to take ones from there and just mark up those, each additional ones that you get. Do like a screenshot, mark up what you want changed, and then feed it back into it.
yeah, I might try that, and I'll put that on the Facebooks if I give that a shot. There, that would take too long to draw. As you tell, it was super detailed, and I spent a lot of time and detail in that.
Mm-hmm.
so when does construction start?
I think I'm doing it. Let's see. We put on the calendar Friday the 10th. So assuming I can get all the supplies and everything there on the 10th, I'll do it on the 10th.
Well, they make those blocks right over there in Holman.
Yep. I don't know how much those ones are. The ones the ones I'm getting are $95.
Okay.
So
95
Yeah,
per block or 95 per all of them.
95 per block.
My grandfather used to own a ready mix company, and they'd make those blocks as the trucks come back with extra concrete on the truck.
Yep.
So it served the purpose to get rid of it, but then they could also sell them. So
Yep. So that works out pretty well. So
All right.
All right. Well, here's one of the things I'm working on. So let me pull this up here for those that want to see the software dev side, but this gets a little geekier.
I'm going to have to hop off here in a little bit. I have to go to another meeting, but I'll stick around just for a few more minutes.
All right. So this is a web-based chat that if you go to you go to the AI workshop, you'll see it down here. And in fact, if you go and try chatting with me, you might. These are people that are actively on the site. But if anyone goes to that site there, why don't you go and try chatting with me once? Just go to this. You don't need Aaron Libner in there. All right, so someone's there. And it should, if you chat with me, put a timer on there. All right, there we go.
So let's all bombard him right now and see if he can keep up.
So like this here works pretty good in my opinion. But one of the things so I'll be working on this today to add this. Like this, I added in there to put a text in here after 5 seconds to let people talk to me if they want. And so I just keep slowly advancing this. And like over here, I can see all previous chats, and a lot of this is the AI business. But like I have my Get IT for CPA, and allows me to engage with the individuals that are on there. Well, we got 10 people in here now, huh? Aaron's the best presenter today. I agree.
You know, I can't argue with that. Thanks, guys, for whoever put that in there.
Yeah, whoever that was. So, and it tells me like what site they're on, what page they're on the site. So when we come over here, I want this one. So we'll go and so right now, could you group similar? Actually, I'm gonna create a new chat on this. So one thing I see is down here, my context is at 68%, and normally once I get about 25%, if I am starting a new idea, I go ahead and swap that over. So I might say, could you give me an option to group similar IPs together and let me see ones with a response from the person. So allow me to filter only by those with chats not responded to in both active and previous. So as this is running then, so my long-term vision for this tool will be that if people ask like, hey, where's on the event, where's the event held? And I can go ahead and just send them side flyouts of different data pieces. Or if they go to our site and ask, hey, what type of IT support do you do? Or do you do cybersecurity risk assessment, penetration tests? You can send them information about that without it being in line in the chat. Like it'll be a flyout. So it almost becomes like a resource flyer for them from a chat perspective. And then later on, of course, I'll add in there some AI that allows us to auto summarize based off the chat, auto respond, and some of those tools. And this can take a little while here, but yeah, it'll just slowly start working through and creating a plan to add this. and then I'll be able to add that right in there. Other things I gotta watch out for or I gotta try fixing. Right now, I think if you navigate to any page, it'll pop up a question 5 seconds after you land on any new page, which is obviously not ideal. But that's what I do for most of my days. I'll have 1 or 2 of these projects up like this, and I have it doing this while I'm working on some other project. It sits there for 5 minutes or so, goes through. But yeah, here it created apply the filter, group them by IPv, persistent filters, handling, add those in there. This might go really quickly.
Niall, you'd be interested in this, wouldn't you? This kind of tool. Niall's our software developer here at Western. I'm just curious about his take, seeing this, you do this, Rodney.
Yeah, he's joined. We have a AI specific or a software dev weekly chat that we do with a couple different IT leaders across the country, and he joined that one a couple times.
I missed the last one, but
well, if it makes you feel better, I missed the last one. I was at the conference, so Tim handled it. So I think he did Google CLI.
Huh.
He set me up with the Google CLI as well, but I just haven't used it.
Yeah, I'm just curious about your thoughts now on this. Once you start to see all these tools, how that might impact your thoughts on program development.
Well, I just, I mean, it's pretty amazing all the stuff you can do with it. And I don't know, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around it, but I've kind of figured out my own way of using AI, which I'm comfortable with. And it involves reviewing all the code that it generates. So it's not definitely not vibe coding, and it definitely takes a lot longer than vibe coding. But yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if if you can run into any problems with just not knowing about all the code. But it sounds like, I mean, with the stuff that you guys have shown me is just amazing. Have you had any issues where things were hard to fix or something, didn't work the way it was supposed to? Or, I mean, from our previous discussions, it sounded like you've kind of been able to overcome all the issues. So
yeah, you just basically make a project into small segments, and then if something starts to bog itself down, you go ahead and segment it out into 2 separate portions and have 2 different code bases use that.
yeah, I'm still wrestling very much with like how much coding do our students need to know? I mean, that's the majority of our program at Western is teaching coding and reading and writing it and stuff like that. So, but I don't have an answer right now for
yeah, because you look at this one here, right? This whole chat program is not underneath this section here. So we have like our app chat here, and it just created this little section of code, this green section, just got inserted in there, and I'm not even going to look at what that is. But yeah, there's so like that's 600 lines. That there's probably 150. Service worker, the 37 one.
Just think about what the projects are the students could make if they could.
Yeah, so
something like
this here is a 5,000 line project all in. And here you see it's making all kinds of sub little edits to the to the
JavaScript.
to the
Yeah.
app. And I can go create a second one of could you do an optimization report and let me know what you think we could optimize about the code for this project? Just give me recommendations. So that can sit there and it'll review the chat code while this thing goes. So I'm editing it in over here, and you can run optimization, and I could also go and start another one. Please run a security review of this code. How could we harden this to make it more secure without adding server requirements? So there I have a security review and a code optimization running while I was doing this development here. So now if that worked correctly, that's always an if. Yeah, so here I can group similar IPs. Has a visitor message. And awaiting a reply. So why don't someone hop on there and just send me a message and we'll see if it pops up. All right, there we go. So now I added that so that way it only pops up here if I need to respond to it. Yeah, that works pretty well. So there I was able to add 3 new filter options to it. And from here, we're looking at the code optimization report, high impact. So it wants to restrict some cores, is unauthenticated. So we'll go change that. And these are things I'll probably just work on today I just deployed this chat thing, I think, to the site yesterday. So now
Rodney, do you work on all these live, or do you have like a work in progress that you promote to production, or what is your methodology?
It depends on. So I have some reports that I'm working on that are in a dev environment that then we publish. Like so let's see. So like this site here, I can go and if I make changes, the change as a whole won't go live here until I publish this live. So I can go and I have a test environment that's in my local, that's IP blocked and it's on our local server and only accessible from inside our trusted network. And but then we go and take that and run a script and publish it live to this site and or to this site. So these two are public facing sites as a whole that and I think after 5 seconds it should pop up with that little message. Yeah, it should. It's not for some reason. So anyway, so these are done. We have a dev environment and a public site. Whereas like a tool like this chat agent, for example, I do that live because I'm the only one using it right now. And I'm just piloting it really for the most part. And from my side of the fence, the worst that happens is I end up with a couple chats that don't go great. So if I'm getting 100 people come to the site, if one or two of them end up failing, being how you only get 1 out of 200 people normally anyway, that's not that big of a deal. So the speed is more valuable to me than the security of publishing. Whereas like on the whole website as a whole, I can do changes to my website builder, that can break the whole site. I don't want that live. That makes sense?
Yep.
So, and normally once I get to the point where I'm done with something, I'll move it to Tim, and he will go and put it into a secure published environment, do a security review of it, then publish it as a tool for the team. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing is prototyping. And he just makes sure I didn't do anything really, really bad.
Does he catch stuff? Has he caught stuff that could have been a big issue if you had, published it before running through him?
I forget one, but he just he told me my authentication was worthless. And he's like, I'm like, all right, well, that's why I have you. Make it not worthless.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm gonna rebuild it. So then he went and rebuilt the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you get that every once in a while, but and like we're doing a basically an event coordinator, and we're hoping to have that done by the time this workshop goes. So that'll allow everyone to join to a group, but we want both unauthenticated and authenticated access. So if someone comes, rather than having to create a user account before they get access to any like the schedule and notices and stuff, they can just be sent a link and they can get like a read-only access to it and get messages via text message and such with no authentication to them. So that way, like let's say you guys came to the group and or let's say Sean goes to the group and then he added you into it. He can add your cell phone in there. Then you'll start getting texts and stuff to that without you having to ever have taken any action. And then if you like it, well, then you can go create an account and actually get maybe more access. So you can chat and stuff like that. Whereas right now, it's really a world of either or, that you either have complete unauthenticated access and it's all read only, or before you get access to anything, you have to log in with some type of credential. And as SSO makes that not horrible, but I think there's a big there's a gap between there, because oftentimes you have an organizer or a driver, but then you have 2 or 3 people that are just coming along for the ride, and none of them want to create an account, right? And or no one wants to remember, what is my password for this stinking site, or did I use my Google or my Microsoft or Apple? Which SSO did I use for this tool? Or you log in a second time with the wrong SSO, and now you have 2 accounts created in this platform. So yeah, so that is an entire Tim project. That's well beyond my head, and that's all around authentication security. He's the one working on that side of it. So once he gets that done, then I'll take it over and he'll give me my sandbox. Like, look, everything inside of here is fine because it comes from his APIs, it comes from his authentication, that I can only display the data that has already been authenticated. So there's really no reverse engine, or there's no way to break it, because none of the tools I have any power of authentication. So then I'll take over how's the site work, how's the app work, how's the interaction work, how do you send, and then I'll say, hey, I can't do this thing. He's like, well, that's because you're an idiot, Rod, and you don't want to do that. I'm like, yes, I do. And we argue, and eventually he'll do what I say, even though he'll tell me I'm wrong. But and oftentimes he's right. But
are you the older brother?
I am the older brother. He's a smarter brother, though. So he's pretty, I would say, genius level. But
yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so that's how we work from an authentication or a security perspective. That all the stuff I do is anything that's actually accessing sensitive data, anything that's accessing access control or would have any level of security has to go through him, and I can only work with access points that he has given me. He's thought through, like, look, there's nothing you could do to. Now, obviously, I'm sure there's some way I could do something but without really trying hard, there's very little I could do to actually cause any compromise. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So Sean, like what you were talking about with our students here is, it sounds like what you're describing are 2 different roles, like a prototyper who really understands vibe coding, and you're a perfect person for to be a vibe coder because you understand the technology really well, so you know how to explain what you want to the AI. Our students would have a long way to go to even get to that point. But you still have like a really highly skilled developer in the process too. So
yeah, but on that, like, so here's my security review, right? So here I had the AI do a security review for me, so it can go ahead and chat agents, and these are all things I designed into it so I can prototype this. But I'll be locking this down today. That's why part of my to make it so that way it's like IP locking the chat stuff, but it can do these security reviews for this type of data. And I would think like you do vibe coding for like your first or second semesters, and then start talking to them once they know how to build an app. Start looking at doing these type of assessments. Like, all right, well, how are you going to lock this down? Or almost have like white hat hackers, or maybe bring in your cybersecurity team. Say, all right, these are the apps these guys wrote. Let's go see if we can break into them. And your cybersecurity team might enjoy doing that type of counter attack to them, and then show them, look, these are the vulnerabilities you put inside here, so then they can learn how to harden those environments.
Yeah, I think as you're saying this, is vibe coding as a course or as a program, depending on how it fits and how big it is, would be something to explore.
Well, I think it'd be, yeah, I would say especially in your business analyst teams should definitely know how to vibe code.
Yeah.
Because
And I think as we were
it basically allows them to rapid prototype, so they can sit there live with the client, say, hey, this is the type of app you want. Well, then if I can, like Niall, if I go hand you hey, here's the app I want, make it so it's secure. Or here's the UI I like, here's how, because oftentimes complaints from a software developer, complaints from the end user are more about how the button colors are and where they're positioned, and than it is the actual operation of the application, right? So
I'm gonna
like,
offer my
I'll show
thought
you
on this.
another example. Oh, it's on my laptop.
Sorry, Ian, what? Ivan?
I was just going to share my thought on this. There was a question on how much do we actually need to learn some of this hard-coded or some of that technical stuff. What I noticed that, I don't know much of a language, and to me, this is really like a God-level wizard that Rod is doing right on the screen here. From my experience, it is that any of the tools out there, they're just a tool that multiply. They're just a multiplication, if you will. So, and if you think of that, that's how I think about it, is your knowledge multiplies by whatever x, 10x call it. And so if your knowledge is 1, then 10x is 10. If your knowledge is 5, then it becomes 50. Well, if your knowledge is 0, everything times 0 is 0. Not only that, but also the way I'm thinking is, if you're dumb and your knowledge is a negative number, now negative, and if your direction is negative, multiplication of that -5 by 10 gets you into -50. So that's kind of my train of thought on this. So you're gonna really expand your abilities in order to utilize that tool, because this is just the other knowledge in my head, this is a gun. You can be very productive, you can put some food on your table utilizing that gun. However, you can also kill yourself with that too if you don't know how to use it. So from my experience, and I have very limited coding, you have to really understand the architectural and the areas what you need to pay attention to in order to produce a good result. But it also, you have to have some kind of a vision. So in terms of the educational system, I see it as, well, if you want to end up being a QC guy who is just doing nothing about, checking progress of AI generated models, then you don't really need to do much. But more you'll learn about the background, more you're involved and have that technical knowledge, will put you into a higher level in that hierarchy of organizational structure. So if you're really driven by success in the professional field, you gotta have that foundation. That's just my vision on it. No matter how you look at it, that tool will never replace the actual knowledge and structure thinking. The other thing that from my education, which is overseas, the educational system isn't there to give you the technical knowledge. It's really to teach you how to think. So if you can if you can actually structure your mind thinking, then you can use tools in a effective and successful way. So that's where some of this becomes really useful, and that's how I look at it on an educational standpoint.
Yeah, I think the best vibe coders are people who haven't necessarily programmed, ever before, but are really good, have a really good understanding of technology. They understand servers and databases, and they understand ideas about security, and so those are the things that are we definitely need to make sure our students know. Because I mean, with so much emphasis on coding, I have wondered if sometimes we fall short of, does the student really understand the environment that this whole program runs in? So I think we need to kind of shift our focus from the code to like the whole environment and the system that the code runs within. So,
But you might be it might be worthwhile if you wanted to. I could bring my son down there sometime and you just drill him because he's 16 years old, right? But he's doing all this vibe coding stuff and he doesn't understand the servers or anything like that. But now again, he has access to like we set up those environments, but in larger corporations, the software developers don't set up the environments either. They work within code bases and such. So just to almost just drill him on like what do you know, what don't you know, what is important, how do you mentally think about what you're creating, right? Because he knows a little bit about. Yeah, again, I don't know exactly what he does and doesn't understand. I just know what he can produce.
Well, I mean, to your point, Rodney, if they're going into an environment where all that structure is in place, then it's just following what the structure is. If they're going into an environment where the company is relying on them to understand all that background stuff because they're the one person that they're hiring to do that in a smaller shop, then that's where that understanding comes into play. I think Diane's point, it's more of a business analyst who can critically think about what the business processes are with a little bit of understanding of technology would be a great vibe coder because he understands the business process and how to apply those ideas, because prompting is nothing more than asking the right questions at the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
it's hybrid.
So if I came in and told my beginning students to, create a website that uses a database, their first question is, "What's a database?"
Exactly.
So
yeah, I mean,
It's true.
There's a foundational.
My response to that
setup.
would be though is open up ChatGPT and ask it what a database is.
yeah,
If they can't spend 5 minutes with ChatGPT and understand what a database is,
yeah,
right? Because you can also tell it, all right, what are things you understand? If they came from a restaurant background, ChatGPT can explain a database as a restaurant. If they came from a farming background, if they came from whatever their background is, and that's going to be far better than any textbook that you have, right? Because a textbook is going to give you it for everyone. Well, ChatGPT can give them that information in a context they understand.
yeah. But I totally agree. But I have had like many times where it's generated stuff that's just not correct. Not very often. Usually it's right on, but there are times when it gives me bad information, and they aren't going to know that. So
Yeah, I mean, part of that comes down to how much you pre-train it and verify it. So there's a lot of work on your end if you set that kind of tool up.
Well, I mean, if you're using ChatGPT 5 with
It's a lot better.
referencing,
Yeah,
rarely do I find gives incorrect information.
but it's in the context of how you're asking it too.
So it's Friday, but I'm going to add a little bit of a conspiracy theory that sits in the back of my head. So the article that I sent from the Wall Street Journal, please read because it's interesting. It talks about the numbers and how much effort and money that everybody is putting into it. It actually made me think long before that article of, okay, we're dumping so much money. There's billions of dollars that goes into it. And there is going to be a point that people would love to get that return in the way. So to me, how do you generate the money on that? And like, I don't know if you ever noticed, but less and less people, in my opinion, utilizing, just a simple Google search, although Google search is now AI bot too. But the way how Google's selling their services is through the ads. So what my point is, I see how some of the large language model are going to be manipulative in order to be shifted in a way so someone get benefit from him. So just kind of squeezing or modifying the output. So I'm not going to trust sooner what I'm going to get from those large language models because of that. That's just my conspiracy theory. The other thing is, what I want to mention is in my mind, the actual result come from the best result come from struggles. And from my engineering background, we were going and drafting school, doing with the pens and pencils drafting before we utilize AutoCAD. Although that was done in seconds, but you have to struggle in order to understand how things needs to be simplified. If you jump on simplification right away, you're not getting that struggle done, and you're not going to come up with the best output, in my opinion. Although you can be still struggling with the ChatGPT or the simplified method of things, but that's where things becomes kind of challenging. You got to make people struggle in order to make them productive and effective and best. And it becomes a little bit more challenging now with the tools available.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge for
AI. You will hit challenges with AI. You hit the limit. All challenges come with limits, and AI has a limit. If you have people do the problem solving with AI, they eventually start hitting the limits of those AIs, just like we hit all the limits of all of our individual tools. So I can tell you with my website builder, I had to restructure that thing numerous times because I kept hitting the limits of what the AI can reason, code, break it out. So you still do just as much problem solving. You're just problem solving at a different level.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that this applies to any profession in the age of AI, is that, I mean, it can make it real easy for you not have to struggle and not have to think about the work that you're producing. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. You can struggle faster, and you can make your mistakes faster and get through them and learn from your mistakes. So there's value added there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, while we're
wish I
talking
could
here,
stick
have
around.
the AI build this website here for a nice little software career at Western Tech.
Oh, you just made this right now, or
just now? Yeah.
Okay.
Like so here's the prompts that I did. Where is this thing? And this is running on my local computer, of course, but
it must be nice to actually work while we're talking, because the rest of us are actually not. So I'll have to hop off here very shortly.
Yep. So yeah, here's here, like in this folder, make a nice folder. It went and did this, built this 5 sites. Oh, it's still creating the contact actually, so it's not done yet.
Yeah, it's awesome for those prototypes. Totally awesome. And I mean, to make something like that would take a couple days, I think. You know, in the old days.
You can see the contact one isn't made yet, but the others are made. The schedule, portfolios. So like you have your students build something like this, and basically just force them to hit the limits of what is the AI capable of, and then you can actually start getting them to try troubleshooting it from that perspective and structure it correctly. And that, I mean, that'd be my take on it.
Yeah.
There. So now we got our contact in here.
Yeah, they've got this thing that has hundreds of lines of code, and then the next step is to kind of understand it so you can control it and build on it. But yeah.
Well, here's my analogy to that is I learned how to code HTML from scratch. And then they came out with all the WYSIWYGs for the generators. You could publish a HTML page right from Word. But if you go and look at it in the editor, it has so much extra information just to get the page. To have that fundamental understanding and then look at the code, it's kind of like I see where I came from. Kind of.
The challenge, I'm just thinking about this, is that if they look at this code, it's going to be a lot harder for them to make sense of it than if they had written that HTML themselves. So that, yeah. And I mean, some of the code that is going to be generated here is going to be stuff that they wouldn't learn until later in the program anyways. So there's
No, but I mean,
So-
what you can do is you can start out with foundational courses so that they got a base understanding. And then when they do projects like this, have them take the code snippets and feed it into AI and say, explain this code to me.
yeah.
Yeah, because I assume you could have a day talk about styling, right?
Style sheets, yeah.
Like here's your style sheets, and if you don't like how this looks, you can ask the AI to go ahead and structure it nicer or cleaner, or you can
Put it
start
into
telling
a CSS file.
Yep. And I just did this because it's all in one file because I did it on my local computer, not on a web server. So
Mhm.
I need everything within one single file. But if you get them to, all right, here's an H reference. Let's go ahead and change where this reference to, right? So then they're working on a live project that is there for them that they can go ahead and actually test and play with.
Yeah.
So I think like if you look at this code here, there's nothing in here too complicated. And you could explain and teach each one of the concepts that you're talking about individually, but they can see in a live site that they just built how that affects each one of those, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to try this stuff out. I've got an activity for my beginning students where it's basically using Chat GPT to build a website, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. I'm sure, Rodney, it sounds like you've done these kind of things before already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I shared with you, but yeah, I had a group of middle school kids that were making games and applications after 15 minutes of training.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try that too, and I'm just gonna see where it goes, and I'm hoping that we can just continue to build on the project throughout the later courses and stuff too. But it's hard to know how.
Well, give them some extra credit for whoever, like some type of competition for, all right, whoever can build the most complicated application that works the best, I'm going to give extra credit, and it'll be crowd voting.
Huh.
Right? I mean, anyone of your students that can build an actual application is going to do so from a AI perspective. So it's
Yeah.
not actually graded, right? It's outside of coursework, but they're just learning. Here's how you go the first, and then tell them that, look, I want you need to explain the code to me when we're done.
Yeah. I'm just thinking I've had in the past I've had students do stuff on their own. I'll be like, do whatever you want to do. And then I've had other projects where I'm like, we're gonna do it this way. If I let the students just go off on their own and do things, then they run into all kinds of different problems, and I gotta fix it. So I'm not going to be able to do that. So
that's why it's nice
yeah.
from a extra credit perspective that if the class as a whole is voting, they'll give 5-minute presentation to show their app, let the students use it, and then the crowd votes. You're not obligated to fix any of their stuff. If they don't get it working, they won't win the competition, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. I start my web programming class in October, so I can't wait to see how that goes. So,
well, like I said, if you want me to come on in there and talk sometime, let me know. I'm going to the UW on, when is this?
UWL?
Yeah, some group there. I think it's a student group invited me to come talk.
Nice.
yeah, I definitely, Rodney. I mean, do you need I guess I haven't figured out when would be a good time. This vibe coding activity, I'm thinking of doing it like in week 2. But how much?
What
how
is
much
week 2?
What's that?
What is week 2?
Give them a date for week 2. We pull up the calendar.
Yeah,
or just
look at your calendar and give me a date and time you think would be good, and I'll let you know if I'm.
Here's an idea. If you do decide to come on and meet with Null, maybe we can try to arrange that demo of the new center that we have, the Wannick Center.
Yeah, I love that.
A walkthrough, a tour.
Yeah, we could give you a walkthrough of that whenever you come. So, yeah. So the semester, Sean, I don't know if you know, but the next semester starts late, like mid-October, I want to say. I could look it up here, But anyways,
I have the
I'll
calendars. Hold on. Huh.
I can
Popping it
throw
up
out a
right
few
now.
dates for you, Rodney.
Yeah, and you're not obligated to have me come in. I'm just offering if you want me to.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be great.
And if you had any other teachers that wanted to step in and see it, or
Yeah,
administrators or anything like that,
Fall 2 starts October 27th on that Monday.
okay. So yeah,
That's when
somewhere early
So
November.
the second week would be the week of the 3rd of November sometime.
Yeah, I gotta see how. I'm not exactly sure when, but I can let you know. I actually maybe what might even be better is have you come and do something for the technology club. So that's students from all different classes and programs. That might be a great activity. That'd probably be better actually, but and then we could control the dates could be up whenever works for you. So anyways,
Yeah,
I gotta
just-
get going. I gotta go pick up my kids. They're off school today. So
all
and
right.
I thank you guys. These are great sessions. This is awesome. So but I'll be reaching
All
out
right.
to you, Rodney. Thank you.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you guys later.
Have a
Bye.
good weekend, you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Bye all.
Thank you. You too.